Today's episode is a powerful conversation with Jan Winhall, an expert who's revolutionizing how we understand addiction, trauma, and healing. If you have ever felt trapped in cycles of behavior you can't seem to break, if you've struggled with food, substances, or any pattern that seems to control you, this episode is going to change everything. Jan is going to walk us through her groundbreaking Felt Sense Polyvagal Model, a compassionate, body centered approach that doesn't just label you as disordered, but understands your experiences as intelligent adaptations. We'll explore how your nervous system works, why you do what you do, and most importantly, how healing is absolutely possible. Get ready for an incredibly validating, science backed conversation that will help you see yourself and your struggles with new eyes. Jan Winhall is about to show us that our bodies aren't the enemy, they're actually trying to protect us. So let's dive in. Hi, Jan. I'm so excited to have you here on the podcast today. I know that what we are going to talk about is going to be really insightful to all of the listeners. So, with that, let's just jump in. And where I think I'd like to start is for somebody who might be listening who has never heard of the Felt Sense Polyvagal Model. Can you tell us a little bit about what it is and how it came to be?
Sure. How it came to be was really over 40 years ago now when I started practicing. I was given a task of running a group for young women who were incest survivors.
Mm,
And I was completely overwhelmed by that task.
yeah.
I was fresh out of grad school, and I ended up in a job in a hospital setting that was in a really high needs area in the city in Toronto where I live. And the psychiatrist there had started this program for incest survivors, which was very unusual.
Yeah.
Although the feminist community back then were addressing sexual abuse and incest survivors quite a bit, actually, more than now, which is worrisome.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, who talks about incest now?
Nobody.
Nobody.
Yeah.
Well, it hasn't stopped, I don't think. Yeah. So that's another project,
Mm,
another book. Uh, but back then, I don't know how he got this idea, but bless his heart, really, Jerry Cooper, he started this program. We had families coming
mm,
with perpetrators into the hospital setting, doing family assessments and working with the young women that were in the family. They were interestingly, they were all women, which again is not really um, it's not reflective of the situation, but that's where it was almost 45 years ago.
mm,
And so I started working with these women. I started working in groups, and I realized that the traditional way that they were being treated in the hospital setting was terrible. They were all diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, which meant they were kind of like seriously thrown away.
mm,
Um, and nobody wanted to work with them. So they gave me the job because I was the newbie,
mm,
which was great for me because they left me alone.
mm,
And so we had they a lot of them were inpatients. They were put on a lot of medications. And I'm not totally against medication, but that was basically the treatment. And so then I started working with them in groups, and I just realized that what was going on in their bodies was what was really telling the story, Jane. It wasn't because they weren't even ready to tell the story. They couldn't put into words what was unspeakable that happened.
Yeah.
But their bodies were telling the story big time.
Mm.
And so back then, we didn't talk about the autonomic nervous system and polyvagal theory because it was no polyvagal theory. Um, but we did talk about numbing and flooding.
Mm.
And so I grew to understand over time that, of course, what we were describing as flooding was intense flight fight energy in the body, the sympathetic branch of the nervous system. And numbing was what Steve Porges eventually named as the dorsal branch of the nervous system, the shutting down place in the body. So I don't know how familiar your listeners are with polyvagal theory or the autonomic nervous system, but just to say, because it's a complex theory, that's for sure.
Yes.
But it's really just about, not just, but it's about in the simplest way, the vagus nerve in the autonomic nervous system. And the vagus nerve is the largest cranial nerve. It comes all through the body. It has branches all through the body, or like pathways that come up into the brainstem and bring up information about what's going on in the body through the heart rate, through the gut, through our lungs, our stomach. And so it's giving us constantly, in an unconscious way, all this information about what's going on in our bodies. And what's going on in our bodies is determined by how safe we feel, right? How able we are to regulate our breath, our breathing, to be able to be present and to attend to what's going on. And so it's incredibly important that we pay attention to how safe we feel and how that is impacting our capacity to be well, both physically and emotionally in the world.
Yes.
So it's very important. How safe we feel really determines how we experience life,
Mhm.
right? And the easiest way to kind of describe that is, if I feel comfortable and safe here, we're both having a nice conversation and it's kind of fun and whatever. But if a loud noise occurs, you and I are both probably going to jump, or at least,
Yep.
it's a little bit, because our bodies are shifting up into flight fight, which I think most people know. They know
Mhm.
what that feels like in their body. That's the sympathetic branch of the nervous system, which is mobilizing to help us, to protect us, to either fight back or to get out of there.
Yes.
And what Steve Porges named was that there's another branch or another part of that vagus nerve that hadn't been identified before that actually comes after the flight fight, which is when we collapse and shut down because fighting and getting out of there aren't possible.
Yes.
And that shutting down place is a place of dissociation and collapsing. And so the theory really took off because all of us that were trauma therapists, we knew that place. We saw it in people's bodies all the time where they fold in and they feel shame and we collapse into ourselves to try to protect ourselves. So it's like hibernating in the base of
As
your house.
as you say this, I can just picture myself sitting on the couch after a binge in that place of collapse, of shame, of, that I can just picture myself. And I'm sure that anybody listening can also picture exactly what that experience feels like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That experience of collapsing and then often really numbing feelings
Mhm.
and sometimes losing time, right, is often the only place of relief
Mhm.
in a body that is living in that trauma feedback loop of flight, fight, and then collapse, and then flight, fight, and then collapse. And that's where these young women who were being sexually assaulted by family members were living. because there was no safety of that ventral branch of the vagus nerve that's online, that comes above the diaphragm and then up through into the face and around into the ear in particular. And when we just don't feel safe enough, that part of the vagus is just shut down.
Yes.
So it was a combination of first looking for a way to work with people in their bodies because I knew that all this talking stuff wasn't working. First of all, they couldn't articulate
Sure. Yeah.
very much of what had happened. And they began to over time, but I think that's mostly because we paid attention to the need for safety.
Mm.
And that awareness, while a lot of younger therapists will think that comes from polyvagal theory, it does, but it also comes from feminist therapists
Mm.
like Sandra Butler, who were unbelievably skilled. Laura Davis and Ellen Bass, who wrote The Courage to Heal. And of course, Judith Herman, who
Mm.
wrote Trauma and Recovery.
Mm.
Yeah. And so I always want to really pay attention and honor uh, those women because they were, and other women back then in particular, where there was a real movement to get that out there and to develop feminist theory and to really appreciate that establishing safety is the most important thing.
Yes.
And then polyvagal theory reinforced all of that.
Mm.
But the first place that I got to wasn't polyvagal theory because it wasn't around then. It was Eugene Gendlin's work in working with the felt sense in focusing, is what he called it. And a lot of people haven't heard of Gendlin, and it's my mission to make them aware of Gendlin's work because he was really the first person who really uncovered and identified the the power of embodied change, how change happens in the body.
Mm.
And it happens through what we call these felt shifts in the body, where there's a kind of feeling of intensity or a lot of feeling that's in there that I could see in these young women too. And then as we would be together, and there would be this safety and this beautiful over time, because it could also really blow up and get chaotic. Imagine with lots of young women who've been so traumatized and they would project all of their stuff on each other.
Yes.
Poor little me. I made mistakes back then for sure. But we kind of forgave each other and we went through amazing experiences, both really joyful and also horrific.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in that connecting, we were able to start to create the safety.
Mm.
And then they were able to start to come into their bodies. And then I could see the shift in their bodies where they would feel this intensity, receive this warmth and care and love. And
Yes.
and that happens to us all the time, right?
Oh,
You're upset, you go to your therapist or you find your girlfriend or your partner or whatever, you express that. And there's this opening that happens. And that opening that Gemlin saw through research that they did, this physical release in the body is what we call the felt shift. That's what I then connected with the shift in autonomic state.
mm.
The shift from sympathetic into ventral safety or from dorsal collapse into sympathetic into safety and releasing um, was also, so yes, it was an introspective process of coming in and sensing into your experience, your lived experience in the body. And it is also that mechanism that is intertwined with shifting in autonomic state.
Mhm.
That makes sense to you.
Yes, absolutely makes sense. And
Yeah.
what we see so often is that we use we use food, we use a substance, we use shopping or anything else to create that shift. But really what we're doing is we're shifting back and forth. It's that trauma feedback loop that you were saying, shifting back and forth between the fight flight and then the dorsal collapse. So
Yeah.
it's like our bodies know that a shift is necessary, but we end up stuck in that feedback loop. And so what you're saying is if we bring safety in, we bring in that ventral branch of the autonomic nervous system, we can create a shift, but it's a different shift.
Yes. It's a felt shift rather than an addictive shift.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I began to kind of formulate in the model. I had the flooding and I had the numbing, and I had, or in the early days, the me sitting there trying to hold that together in a safe state that we would now call ventral.
Yes.
Um, and then I realized that addiction, so these things that the women were doing that were, they were all being labeled and interpreted as masochistic and attention seeking and blah, blah, blah. But what was really going on there was that there was this instinctual knowing in the body that you have to shift. If you're up in sympathetic for too long, you have to shift into a dorsal state of shutdown and relief because you can't live there forever. Your heart rate is like this, right? It can't sustain. You would die.
Yes.
So bodies know instinctively. And so when you understand it through the lens of the nervous system, you can see, oh, that's what has to happen in order for a body to live.
Yes.
And the same thing is true in dorsal.
Yes.
I asked Steve about this in particular, believe me, because it's very important that in dorsal, you can't live there forever either because the heart rate is actually lower than it is when we feel calm and safe.
Mhm.
That's how he discovered the dorsal branch,
Mm.
was that it was actually lower because he was doing all these studies with heart rate variability. And I thought, well, how can it be lower? Where's that in the nervous system? It's not ventral and it's not sympathetic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he
Yeah.
got to that through studying premature babies that were ill.
Mm.
And you'd think their heart rates would be pumping like crazy if there's no dorsal, but they weren't. They were so low, and then some of them were dying.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so bodies know that too. If you're in a dorsal state as an adult and you can't stay there forever, the body will instinctively look for high risk behaviors, right? Or
Mhm.
behaviors that pump a lot of adrenaline and cortisol into the body, i.e., repeating unsafe sexual experiences, for example. Well, you can say that's masochistic, or those people are stupid, or what are they doing? Or you can understand that their body is returning to a neural pathway that shifts them into sympathetic so they can survive.
Yeah.
And that neural pathway was laid down in the context of sexual abuse. And so that body, that brain knows that neural pathway and how to return to it. And that is huge in terms of how we understand self harming behaviors. And so binging and purging is the same thing.
Mhm.
If you binge and then you purge, it shifts you back and forth between the stimulating aspect of it and the dorsal shutting down aspect.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. I remember when I first learned about the nervous system, I learned about polyvagal theory. I love being introduced to you and this felt sense model, which brings a whole nother layer, which is just incredible. And I remember when I initially learned about polyvagal theory and I learned about the nervous system and I could really see my binging in the light of the nervous system and oh wow, okay. So I get into that sympathetic, that fight or flight. So much of my life I lived there.
Yeah.
And then I would use the food to bring me down. But then I would go all the way down and into that dorsal shutdown. And really, I think it was only, and I could see that. I could see the pattern of going up and down. I could see that I never slowed down. I never even gave myself a break, except it was almost like my body was forcing me to slow down, forcing me with a binge because then, yes, yes. And it was only really in learning more from you that I understood I think for me, logically, we can't just live in sympathetic all the time. It's kind of like, driving with just your pedal to the metal, but we can't do that all the time. But I was really shocked to learn we can't live in dorsal all the time either.
No,
That was really surprising to me. It's like, wow. Either way, the body's just going back and forth on the seesaw when we're in that that feedback loop.
that's right. Yeah. And that's how he discovered that was through these little preemie babies.
Mhm.
Heart rates were so low. And the neonatologist knew that.
Mhm.
One of them wrote a letter to him. And he was, Porges was trying to figure this out. Like, how does this work that these babies' heart rates are so low? But that's really what led to him understanding. I mean, this is huge.
So
And,
huge.
and when you think about it, you think, well, imagine having a map of the nervous system that doesn't acknowledge dissociation. Like,
Right.
duh.
Right. We have all experienced dissociation. Yes, yes, yes. So tell us about, well, first of all, I would love for you to share your definition. You have a beautiful, very succinct definition of addiction. I know some people wonder, am I addicted? Am I not addicted? Tell us if you would share your definition of addiction.
My definition is really simple, and it includes anything and everything. So it's basically the definition is a process. It's like, is this behavior something that helps you in the short term and it hurts you in the long term and you can't stop doing it?
Yeah.
That's it. You might be able to stop for a while if you binge,
Mhm.
but if you then start up again, that's a problem, right? Because binging is a problem. Might not be there every day. Because people will often say, oh, it's not an issue. I don't do it every day. Like, that doesn't matter.
Yes.
What matters is if when you do it, it creates havoc in your life
Mm.
and you go back to it when you're stressed,
Mhm.
right? So even if it's something like shopping, it's not a substance.
Yep.
But if you only go on shopping sprees once a year and you spend $10,000 that you don't have, the rest of that year you're making up for that, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so it's a very simple definition. I don't get into power struggles with people about whether they're addicted or not. It's really, you have to find that in yourself.
Hmm. You have another term that I would love for you to share. Rather than thinking of or calling something an eating disorder, for example, what's the terminology that you use?
With eating disorder, I often use the term adaptation,
Mm-hmm.
or dysregulation.
Yeah.
Um, so instead of talking about, or we could talk about food addiction, food dysregulation. I like using the term borderline personality adaptation
Mm.
because I think that in the diagnostic and statistical manual, there are a lot of things about the diagnoses that are characteristics that form a kind of patterning.
Huh.
But we can take those patterns and look at them in terms of the nervous system
Yeah.
and understand them through that lens of dysregulation in the nervous system and see them then as adaptive features of a dysregulated nervous system. So
Yes.
so it's not about dysfunction and it's not about pathologizing. It's about when we understand how bodies work, then we understand these adaptive behaviors that are only understood within the context in which they occur.
Yeah. Yeah. So powerful. I really love the term eating dysregulation. I think for me, I've struggled with the addiction term. I think your definition is beautiful. It's very succinct. It's very, easy to see. Um, but yeah, for me, I really like that. It is an adaptation. It is a response to a dysregulated nervous system. We're really trying to use food or other things to regulate our nervous system. And so then if we can see it from that lens, oh, okay. So I'm not broken. There's not something wrong with me. There is this, my body is actually trying to do what it needs to do. It's just I figured out how to use food to shift my states, but unknowingly I kind of got myself caught in this feedback loop where I'm just going back and forth between the sympathetic fight flight and the dorsal shutdown. And I just go back and forth and back and forth. And
And
then I can see, oh,
it's unknowing because it's unconscious.
right. Yes.
It's led by the nervous system, which is
Yes.
mostly unconscious through the brainstem, which is a primitive part of the brain.
Right. Right.
And like we
So
don't think, we don't think about that. We don't think, oh, we should jump when there's a loud noise. We just jump.
just yes, exactly. Which is why then it does feel like we're kind of taken over. We're compelled. Like it's not an actual logical decision tree. It's just something that then we find ourselves there,
Well,
particularly before we have that connection. Yeah.
yeah, and also because of the way that the brain works with neural pathways, that flight, fight, freeze, shutdown response is a neural pathway in the brain. And the more you walk down those neural pathways, the more that becomes an addictive path. And then there's a whole piece around neuroplasticity, right? That
Mm.
um, if you keep, so the brain changes and it produces new cells all the time. That's all really great. It helps us to heal. At the same time, though, in addiction, if you keep traveling down that same pathway of binging and purging, eventually it forms a rut, literally, in the brain. And that rut, then it's like a stream, when you get a rut, then water flows into that same stream because of the rut.
Yes.
That rut we call the plastic paradox, because while cells keep reproducing and all that's all great, if you keep walking down the same pathway, they stop.
Mm.
And it becomes a rut. It becomes this paradox. You can only do it so much, and then it becomes this stuck place. And then that's why, in part, it's so difficult to change those pathways and to heal from addiction.
Yeah.
But it's possible. That's the really great thing, is that through these introspective practices like felt sensing or mindfulness or other ways of being able to yoga practice with breath coming into the body and then down and connecting deeply inside with ourselves, that we can make these new neural pathways and then kind of get on the new highway and
Yes.
out of the detour.
Yes. Yes, exactly. So if we have people listening, I am sure there are people listening right now who are maybe having some insight, some wow. Yes, I can see this. I can see myself in this pattern. I can see that I am in this pattern of going back and forth. I'm in this, kind of feedback loop between fight flight, dorsal shutdown. Perhaps I've been doing this for so long. Maybe I've made a rut for myself. What do I do now? What do I do? What are some um, practical things that we can give the listeners who can start to create any sort of connection, any sort of bringing in this ventral branch that can help them create a little bit more safety. I mean, safety at the end of the day, that's what we need to create for ourselves is safety.
Yeah, yeah. So the most important thing is to make a connection with another person
Mm,
where you feel safe,
yes.
right? Because we can't heal alone.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't heal in relationships where we're not safe.
Yes.
It's not possible in the body, in the nervous system. The ventral branch of the vagus, where we feel safe, is where healing happens.
Mm.
Health, growth, and restoration happens in the ventral vagus. So the first thing is that we need to find somebody we can feel safe with to what we call co-regulate,
Yes.
to connect with us, because nervous system to nervous system feeds on each other.
Yes.
And that's the most important thing, a place to start. So get yourself and then community.
Mm-hmm.
Get yourself to some person, community, where you feel you can start this journey.
Mm.
So deciding, have a look around, decide who are you attracted to? You can start with a yoga practice. Breath is one of the quickest, most efficient and simple ways to activate that vagus nerve.
Yes.
But some people are never going to do that
Mhm.
because it's too scary and they're overwhelmed by that. Some people will say, "Oh, well, maybe I could go to a yoga class and so find Ariel Schwartz, who is
Mhm.
amazing.
She is.
Good friend, love her.
She's great.
Ariel's work is wonderful, and you can find her online.
I'll put a link. I'll put a link to her in the show notes. I will. Yes.
Yeah. You can find lots of breathing, breath work available on the Polyvagal Institute website.
Mhm.
You can come and find me,
Mm-hmm.
janwinhall.com. I'm going to start running community practice groups based on my book in January through the Polyvagal Institute. And I have a training that you know about for therapists and coaches.
Yep.
You can go to church or synagogue or wherever you end up finding you're attracted to a group that has meaning for you.
Mm-hmm.
You can find Friendly Circle Berlin, who are amazing. Doing work with them, Somatic Mondays. We're doing a book study. There's so many things of it. You could start with the book study. So it's kind of safe, it's like it's online. They're doing one of my book. I'm doing one of my book. Um, you could start with a friend.
Yes.
You just say to your friend, I've got a problem and I want to talk to you about it. And I feel really ashamed.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the first step, right?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I will link these in the show notes. I have a couple of podcast episodes that are going to go along with some of the suggestions that Jan just mentioned. So one of them is I have an episode about co-regulation and the power of co-regulation. So I will put that link in the show notes. Also, I have a podcast episode called How to Talk to Your Loved Ones About Your Secret Eating. So if you are a person who has never talked to anybody about your struggles with food, I've got a podcast episode that will walk you through the decision of, and it really is, I didn't use these exact words, but it really is the decision of, is this a safe person to talk to? Because that safety is so paramount. So I will put both of those in the show notes as well as far as a resource. Now, tell us, Jan, you have mentioned your book. You have at least a couple of books, right? So tell us a little bit about your books and this book study that you have coming up.
Well, my first book, I don't think I have a hardcover copy of it. It costs like $150. I have it over here on my piano. There it is with the people jumping up and down.
Yeah.
Trauma and Addiction with the Felt Sense Polyvagal Model. That's really a coach or clinician book to really go through in depth the theories that are underneath and support the model and how I kind of created the model. It started with working with a group and then working with other, with Jenlin, of course, it goes through the steps of focusing and Dan Siegel's work in interpersonal neurobiology. I love.
Yes.
And polyvagal theory and talking about meeting Steve, and also the Felt Sense Polyvagal Dialogue, which is my next book.
Mm.
So the second book was this book that just came out, 20 Embodied Practices. And really it takes you through the healing journey of working with the felt sense and working with the nervous system through 20 embodied practices. And that's what we're going to be doing the community practice groups of the Polyvagal Institute website in the new year. November, we're going to do a kind of intro to it. So excited about that because
This is an amazing book. I'm about halfway through this book,
and I have an audio too, right? Yeah, I narrated the 20 embodied, I narrated the whole book.
oh, powerful. That would be amazing too, to really be able to have somebody walk you through it.
Yeah,
Yes.
read the practices. And so in the community practice groups that we're going to be doing, people will have focusing partnerships where you share in an embodied way and you can listen
Mhm.
to me saying the practices throughout it.
Mhm.
And then the third book I'm just starting now, I'm having fun with that, is going to be the Felt Sense Polyvagal Dialogue. So how to take the model and work with in relationship with couples.
Mm. Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
Incredible.
It's really an exciting time. We're starting a Felt Sense Polyvagal Model Institute. It's the first time I've said this kind of more public.
Wow. Yeah.
And we've got lots of facilitators now, like about 15 people that are trained, and they'll be working with me in the community practice groups. And it's just such a lovely, you just have to find the community that speaks to you.
Yes.
So, a lot of the different communities are doing great stuff. It's finding what community feels like they're your tribe.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. That sense of safety, it took me a long time to be able to put those words to it. That safety really is, it is at the heart of healing. And what I find, so many people end up telling me, like, I feel so safe with you, or within our Cultivate, we have a Cultivate group program. And one of the things that I hear more often than anything is, oh, this is just such a safe place.
Yeah.
And so it's like when you do create that sense of safety, there is something that we literally open up. And like you said, being able to kind of understand from the nervous system, that is the ventral branch. It is where that healing and growth and restoration happens. And it makes so much sense that we want to hide if we have shame over this thing that we think we're doing this very bad awful thing, whatever it is that has these bad awful consequences that really don't line up with who we are in this world. It makes sense that we want to hide from it, but it's really, really important to know we cannot heal on our own. We can't stay in silence and in hiding and expect our that healing and growth and restoration to happen. It happens in the ventral side, which necessitates safety, other people having that sense. So yeah, so powerful.
Well, that's the thing that I think is the most powerful thing about this 12-step program is the sense of community.
Exactly.
People who find safety there really find that sense of community.
Yes.
And that's so potent, right?
Mm, yes.
Yeah. And it's
Absolutely.
so hard because when we're in that state of addiction, what we want to do is isolate
Yes.
or maybe hang out with your buddies and drink and whatever. But the focus is the drinking and the numbing.
Yes.
It's not the really present, vulnerable connecting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. Jen, is there anything else that you would like to share? Anything I didn't ask you? Anything that you feel that
Well, I think the one other thing, Jane, is to really encourage people to check out focusing.org as well,
Mm.
because working with focusing and with the felt sense, Janlin, worked with Carl Rogers and they created this 6-step process that helped people to come down deep into the body. And this is where healing really occurs. And we focus in partnerships. And so that's a big part of the model is working with another person and sharing deeply what's happening in the body, and we're learning how to listen in a way that you can really facilitate a shift for the person that you're listening to, and also within yourself. So focusing.org is has a lot of resources. Lots of them are free.
Mhm.
And it's international. So it's all over the world, just like the Polyvagal Institute.
Amazing. I was not familiar with Genlin until your introduction. So I will absolutely include that in the show notes as well. And then a question just came up for me. Um, Certainly we will have people listening who have the idea of going into the body and doing any of that type of exploration feels very unsafe.
Right. Yeah.
How if somebody is listening and they're like, "Ooh, like I just can't even imagine that." What would you
Yeah.
have to
Well,
say?
that's normal
Yeah.
in the state of addiction,
Yes.
because what being connected to your body means you're connected to your feelings. And when that is just overwhelmingly painful, the body protects us and doesn't go there. It dissociates. Thank goodness.
Yes.
However, when you are in a safer place, you have to kind of teach yourself and encourage your body to slowly begin the process. And so the first three practices or something are just about learning how to pause
Mm. Yeah.
and notice something in the room. And we go very, very slowly with that. First, by honoring that it's not something you want to do, and also appreciating that you don't heal if you don't feel.
Mm. Yeah.
This is healing, but only in the context where the body feels safe will it allow you to make contact.
Yes.
So it's coming into safety and then appreciating and then really starting to feel, wow, it feels amazing to be close to another person.
Mm. Mhm.
These are the goodies of life.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
all those goodies.
Mm. Mhm.
It wasn't safe. But once we have that platform, then we have to start to do that work. And that's where you have to find the right community to help you to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So powerful. So I would also just add to that, think to yourself, is there any time, any amount, any time during your day, during your week, during your year where you do have a sense of safety? For some people don't. Some people have a place. Some people have a person. Maybe it's an animal. Maybe it's a stuffed animal. Maybe it's the water. Is there something where you know what? In general, I do. I live in that fight. I'm kind of bouncing back and forth between fight or flight and shutdown. But you know, when I go out into the mountains or when I go to the park, something's a little bit different.
Yeah, that's
Get
important.
Yeah, so get curious about that for yourself, and if you have that thing, even as I'm describing this, you may have just had a place come into your mind, or a person, or a thing, and if so, do more of that. Just
And
any amount, yes.
the other thing I found too is that's so important is sometimes people like, and I talked about this too, remember? And it doesn't have to be the word safe. You could
Right.
talk to yourself about, is there a moment, just a little moment where maybe at work where you feel pretty competent?
Yes.
Like, oh, I got this. I know how to do this thing that I know how to do.
Yeah.
So some people, that really helps them a lot.
Mhm,
They don't like the word safe because they don't know it. But go a place where you feel like, you're kind of doing your thing and you know what you're doing.
yes.
Or a place where you feel grounded. Maybe it's with God. Maybe it's with, whatever that place is that you have. And that's so important.
Yes.
That's the starting point, right?
Yes. Yep. Exactly. Exactly. Jan, thank you so much for this. I think
You know what I will say to you though,
yeah,
Jane? Thank
yeah.
you
Mm,
for the work you must have done with
mm,
yourself to
mhm.
be able to talk openly, first of all, about binging
Yeah.
and even more about purging,
Yeah.
and to be able to not just talk about it, but to really help people to be able to do what you've done.
Mm,
Like, that is really commendable.
thank you. I received that. And one of the things that is so powerful for me is the frequency with which I hear, wow, like you get it. I know you get it.
Because
Right, because I've been there. Or I just told you a story that I have never told anybody, really. So I become that safe place
yeah,
for so many people. And to have the gift to be that safe place is it's so powerful. And I really do see it as a gift and an honor, and I really don't think I would change all of what I went through to be here on this side. It's just powerful. And what I love too is in getting to meet somebody like you, where it's like, oh, here's this concept, polyvagal and the nervous system and all of these things that I have been such a powerful part of my own healing process. But then to get to know even now on the next level, this felt sense and the
uh,
felt shift and the
yeah,
focusing, it's like, oh wow, this takes it all even to an even deeper level than I've already been. So thank you for the work that you're doing. And what I love is that we can all just continue to do more and more and bring more people healing and an understanding, so that it's not just I'm broken or there's something wrong with me or I'm disordered. No, your body is actually working the way it's designed to. Now bring in that safety, that ventral branch, we can have healing and growth and restoration.
absolutely.
So
Oh,
powerful.
yeah, addictions are adaptive responses in maladaptive environments.
Yes. Yes.
Addictions are not maladaptive.
Mm.
And people aren't maladaptive. That doesn't make any survival sense.
Right.
Environments we create are maladaptive. That is, well,
Yeah.
yes, that is,
Yes. That is such a good distinction. Jan,
yeah.
thank you so much. I highly encourage anybody to go get this book, 20 Embodied Practices for Healing Trauma and Addiction. I will include a link to Jan's website where you can get all the information on her books, anything she's got coming up, and anything there. So, Jan, thank you. Thank you for this. And I look forward to learning more from you.
Thanks, Jane. It was lovely to be with you. Oh,
If you like what you're hearing, you will love my new book, The Binge Eating Breakthrough: Why Food Isn't the Problem and What Really Is. Discover why willpower isn't the answer, why restricting certain foods often backfires, and why understanding your brain and body is the key to lasting change. Learn to shift from shame and self-blame to curiosity and compassion. Get it today at janepilger.com/book.